Hello my quilting family. Today we're bringing you another installment of the Friendship Star, the case study. And today we're changing one element on the Friendship Star, and that's the corners. Now, some of you are probably thinking, well, the only thing with a Friendship Star in the corner is a blank space. Well, for me, it was a blank canvas. I had so much fun with this. I was just like, oh my goodness, I'm never going to get through. I actually ended up with like pages of ideas to throw in here, and I thought, no, we have to limit ourselves to enough ideas to show you and get you spark your creativity. Okay, so the first spark we're going to do is to draw lines radiating out from the middle. Now these lines are simply achieved by taking your 4.5-inch square to make your Friendship Star and slicing it from diagonal to diagonal, and then sewing in a 1-inch piece that's a little longer than your square, and this is what the back of it looks like. Basically, you see the seam opening. It doesn't change the size of the square, but that's a quick way to get a radiating star. Now, when you piece together blocks like this, where they're all radiating, you end up with a lattice effect, and it joins all the Friendship Stars together, which would look really cool. So, like I say, I had fun with this. The next one I had was where I made little L shapes. Again, this would join, if you made an entire quilt out of this block, you would have them joining along to the next block beside you, right? Creating a neutral or low volume square in between all your blocks. It's kind of like adding part of a border in on your block before you actually get to the border. So this would be like really cool in a repetitive setting. Another one, I couldn't help but do this. It almost reminded me of putting tulips with a Friendship Star. Now, Canada and the Netherlands have a beautiful friendship, and what the Netherlands gave Canada was tulips. And it is just, you know, a cute little way. I decided to keep the tulip blocks in white and blue, or just to make sure that, you know, it kind of stayed with the theme of the quilt. But it's cute. It is cute. Another thing I decided, because the squares on the end, these squares here are blank, it's like a blank canvas. I can put anything in. So what I did was I drew out a geese block, or an extended geese block, and threw them into the corners just to make this add a little bit of different dimension and complexity. It's not really there, but, you know, to stand out or whatever. But if you did do a repetitive pattern of this block, this would look really sharp too. And the geese are very quickly sewn together just by paper piecing. So you could do them either by paper piecing through using wax paper, or freezer paper, freezer paper, or you could draw them, or you could draw them, one sheet of them, scan them into your computer, and then use your computer paper to print them. But when you're doing paper piecing, remember to shorten your stitch length, and, you know, and be careful when you're ripping out your back papers as to not to pull out your stitches. Okay. Now, we decided we would do a little bit of applique. So this is my Friendship Star in Love, and I just think it's just simple raw edge applique with heat and bond behind the hearts, like you put it under a full sheet of, you know, fabric, and then you just cut hearts out to whatever shape you want to put in, and just applique them. This adds a cute little touch to, you know, your Friendship Star. Then the Friendship Star fell in love and had babies. It is minis that surround the Friendship Star. And when I thought of this, I actually laughed out loud, because it is just a cute little, you know, there's, you know, the mama star and the baby stars. So I thought, well, we have to put this one in, just because quilting is supposed to be humorous. You know, you're supposed to have fun with this. You're not supposed to have, you know, worry or anything else. This block will look really cute in a child's quilt or an adult quilt. The The minis are really simple. We're going to cover that in a couple of episodes from now about how to piece the minis. Whether you can do them by paper piecing or by regular patchwork, they're simple. Very simple and quick to do. One of the other things that was not been covered by our case studies has been string piecing. And basically with string piecing, what you're doing is you're creating fabric out of your strings, like all the little bits that aren't big enough to cut into, 1.5, 2 inch or 2.5 inch strips, or whatever your minimum cut is that you feel is appropriate for you. So these strings, now I added a lot of different strings. I even have a Christmas print in here. I have cactus prints. I have a little hat print. Minions are in here. It's just to give you a low volume. You throw all your low volumes onto a block, and this is what you end up with. And this is a very striking block in a quilt. And it's a very quick way to use up your strings. The other thing is we could change the scale of this block, the size of this block. So this is reducing our outside edge, our outside block. Now this again is done with the half square rectangles, and I can link you to that below because we've already done a good tutorial on that. Makes it very simple to follow along. And this again makes a kind of a wonky, cute little block to go into your quilt. And here is an even smaller version. This is where your outside squares are now reduced to 2.5 inches. But I also expanded the inside block, but that's okay. So we've seen this, and again, go to the half square rectangle tutorial. We can also increase this block. So here it is increased to 5 inches versus the 4.5 inches, and this 4.5 inch squares are all equal throughout. Well, here we increased the outside squares to 5 inches, and again we did the half square rectangles, and we created a little bit different look, a little thinner friendship star. And here is a very skinny friendship star. Now this has, the outside blocks have been increased to 5.5. So it creates a very striking block, and especially if you were to put it on point. I think this would look really cool on point. Now one of the other things, because this was a blank canvas for me, I thought, what if we eliminate the seam? Because there's a seam here, right between the half square, or the half square triangle, and the block. So what happens when we, remove the seam? So anyways, now on an equal block like this now is 4.5 by 8.5, and then we do a stitch and flip triangle to create this. So now we're assembling by partial seam method, and we can certainly run a video on that for you if you need it. But eliminating that seam, that extra seam, also removes bulk. So we have to kind of keep that in mind too. Like, we're removing a seam, and yeah, it might be a little tougher to piece, but we're also looking at a very light block. Another thing was to add another triangle. So this creates a very different look for our friendship star, and I tried to keep the friendship star in a little bit lighter tone. I hope I got enough contrast between the dark polka dots and the paler butterfly. But this creates a very dynamic block. It's almost like a flying goose on the outside of the block. This one I drew for paper piecing. Again, it's removed that center seam here, right? So I've made this like 4.5 by 8.5 across this block, and now I've paper pieced this block to give a different effect again. And it kind of looks like a weed whacker gone crazy, but I think it would be a very striking block, especially if it's put into a repetitive quilt. It would also look really cool if it was sash. So this is something you can play with and have fun with. Now, I kind of love that Art Deco look from the 1920s. I quite enjoy something like that. So I saw this on Pinterest. Yes, I go to Pinterest and I spend hours looking for quilt blocks, and next thing you know, it's 3 hours later I'm looking at giraffes. I don't know why, but Pinterest is a great time sink, and yet you still have the small little friendship star in the middle. You also have the very dramatic points to the outside. And again, this is drawn, I sat down and I drew out paper piecing blocks, and you know, you start from this center one and then you move across the block as you would sew it. I decided I was going to try and draw the friendship star on point. It didn't work. And paper piece it. So I am going to put this in our quilts, our charity quilts, and it looks like a floating star now. Like it doesn't, the tips don't quite reach to the edge of the block. So it's not like you're going to be sewing them off. But this is a failed attempt. This is mission failed, but it's still cute. It's still kind of cute, and it still works. Now, the other thing, once we take a friendship star block and we add triangles to it, and we have now removed this seam, this extra seam here, this one here, right? We get a very different look again to this block. This block right here, just a minute here, let me fold it over so you can just see that block, is called half a chevron. Now this half chevron block, you know, once you put it again, 8.5 by 4.5, and you put 2 stitch and flip triangles on it, and you get a very different look again for this block. But what I decided to do was I decided to make Dresdens. So the Dresdens look like they're coming out of the half square triangle right here. So it kind of looks like a sunrise or a sunset, depending on, you know, how you see this block, of the blue, yellow, and white, or low volume. And the yellow is basically heat and bond applique, raw edge applique. So this block comes together very, very quickly. So, of course, you can't leave this idea alone. So I decided to remove the triangles. Yes, I know I'm changing more than one element, but it's my quilt, so I can do that. It's fine. And when you decide to go off mission and do your own thing on your quilt, that's awesome too. So I decided this would be a very quick, cool way of making a flower block, or half a Dresden block, right, in a 4.5 by 8.5 inch frame. And you know, it's quick. It was just sew your Dresdens together, press them, stitch them on your block, heat and bond the balance, right? So this was actually a lot of fun to do. Now, whenever I make Dresdens, I make too many. And it's kind of frustrating at times. So what I do is I try and make art blocks with them. So this is the art blocks I made with my extra Dresdens. So I thought, well, we'll play on this cute little flower game and have a little pop of yellow and little bits of green. And I did try and make the Dresdens fatter, but again, it's a mission fail. And I decided, okay, I've made this. I can put it in my string bin, or I can do something else with it. Well, I decided to make an art block. And I even made this art block. And this is with the heavier Dresdens, but I put a little friendship star in the middle of it, and I thought, yeah, that kind of looks kind of cute, you know, with the wild background. And again, I made another one because I had 2 mission fails. So even though you're trying and you're playing and it doesn't work out, make something else with it. Just have fun with it. And I did find another blue block, and I'm going to add white pieces to this and see if I can play around with this. This I found in my string bin, by the way. So now, on the other front, I've been making pinwheel blocks this week because they're getting rather a lot of them. So I had a bunch of them sitting around ready to go, and I thought, nope, you gotta sit down and get them done. So I'm just, you know, the oversized pinwheel, these are 6.5 inch triangles. So I'm actually making blocks this time instead of little pieces that I have to sew together later. And I have to show you the periwinkle blocks. Now I'm going to get you one that's a little darker so you can see it better. The periwinkle blocks are just coming together, very cute. They all finish at 8.5, or unfinished at 8.5. They'll finish at 8 inches in a quilt. So that's going to be really kind of a cute little quilt for a child. Remember, these blocks are going for charity. Now, if you've been following along, you're going, what happened to your friend's quilt that you're making that's a sister's choice? I haven't started it yet, but I've got all the pieces cut. So hopefully we'll have some news on the front next week. But here we go. So this is quite a few blocks. There's going to be quite a few quilts made out of this. One of the things I'm hoping to do is, after this case study is done, is we're going to take some time out to do free motion quilting. So I'll show you how I go about, start quilting these quilts. And there's different ideas and different methods you can use that I like to use that I'll be quite willing to share with you. So we might not do another case study right after this, but we'll get some quilting done. So I hope you come back next week. It's been lovely sitting and chatting with you. You have a great day. Bye. If you have questions about what you saw on this video, or you have ideas for content or something you want to see us do, please put those comments in the description below. But also, while you're there, like, share, and subscribe with your friends. That would really help us out. Okay, I want to thank you and have a great day.